terms of today, right? Just in terms of objectives, let me move this. I've got the chat in front. Yeah, so if we look at the objectives of today's session, and I hope you are happy with these 3 objectives. Number 1 is for all of us to have a greater awareness of what unconscious bias is, where it actually comes from, and its impact. Secondly, understand the relevance of unconscious bias and diversity more widely to any company or any organization. So, you know, to answer the question, why are you spending 2 hours of your precious time sitting at this webinar and at this workshop about unconscious bias? Why is it important to you in a work context? And thirdly, we will also explore a number of biases and how these can be managed and counteracted. And we will have plenty of time to discuss amongst ourselves around these 3 areas. Are you generally happy with these 3 objectives? Or is there anything else there that you would like to have covered generally? Cool. So far we've got lots of happy people on the call. That's brilliant. Okay, so let's move on. I mean, just to say, I put this picture of the mobile phone. I mean, we all depend on technology greatly to do our jobs. And we get our emails and we're all very attached to our smartphones. But I think to make the most out of this session, it would be really fantastic if you could just put your phones aside to kind of enjoy the session to the maximum. We will finish at 3 o'clock. And then we will see how we do through the presentation. Some bits we might have to do a bit faster than others, depending on the level of discussion that we have. And thirdly, just to say again, use the chat for any questions, any comments, and I will also stop at points during the presentation so we can talk to each other and I can hear your voice as well. So let's start then. As a starting point, we're going to have a little bit of a big question, which is, do you think you are biased, or do you consider yourself as a colorblind, gender blind, you know, you see everyone the same? Do you think you are biased or not? Quickly. Everyone is. Okay, well, that's a good place to start from. And to look at this in a little bit more, in a more practical way, we're going to start with a bit of an icebreaker exercise. What I'm going to do is show you some images. Each image I'll play for maybe 2, 3, 4 seconds. And I would like you to react to the images, okay? And by react, I mean the first word that comes to your mind. It could be an emotional reaction to it, how it makes you feel, a description, whatever. Just use the first word that comes to your mind. The key thing about this exercise is to be honest, to be fast, and to remember that we're not here to judge. We're just here to have a conversation. So don't worry about, oh, if I say this, some people will think that I am sexist or something else, right? Don't worry about it. You can share the word on the chat. So you can use the chat to share what word comes to your mind. If you don't want to share, that's fine. You can think about it to yourself. You can write it down. And we will have a quick discussion about the reactions at the end. So we've got about, I don't know, between 10 and 15 images altogether. So are you ready? I'll take that as a yes. So we start with the first picture. Remember, first thing that comes to your mind, one word. Second picture. Great. Well, we've had a lot of participation, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, can I ask anybody to comment on any of the images? You can pick any image and give a comment if you want. If not, I can choose one of the pictures. Anyone would like to step in and comment on any particular image and your own reaction to that image? Anyone wants to unmute? Oh, very nice. Jennifer, great.
So just I think that it was the last one, or one of the last ones, it was Where's Wally? It made me want to see it nice and clearly so I could actually find Wally.
Yeah.
Because I quite enjoy looking for Wally in those types of pictures.
Okay, but but you had to stop and look, right? But you thought it was quite fun. But you wouldn't be able to spot it, Wally, straight away.
Not online, no.
Okay, cool. Thank you,
Thank
Jennifer. Any other reactions to any other images that you'd like to share? I've got some. This is an interesting one. Let me go back to the beginning. We won't go through all of them. This is an interesting one. Most of you had kind of positive comments, like dedicated, and some neutral comments like cleaner, domestic. Someone said courageous. The person who you said courageous, why did you think of that word? You think, why did you think courageous? Most people actually said domestic helper, right? So the association was domestic helper. But then when we had a discussion, a couple of people in the session said, no, he cannot be a domestic helper because she's too fair-skinned. And again, you know, it's the unconscious bias that comes with people in Asia when they think of a domestic helper. They think about someone who is Asian, but who's got darker skin. And this is mainly because a lot of domestic helpers in Taiwan, for example, come from places like Indonesia or Philippines, where people have darker skin than Chinese people. So there was a lot of the kind of racial bias that came into play when I had this session in an Asian context. This one, the next one, it's interesting because I think most of you kind of reacted like boring, stiff, nervous, politician, propaganda. Brian, why did you say propaganda, you think?
Hi.
Hi, Brian.
Just the look on the face. Just give me, you know, he was trying to convey something that was
a bit menacing, right? A bit menacing. Yeah. Yeah, so you were looking at like maybe the facial features perhaps.
Right.
And some other people also had similar negative reactions in that sense, you know, angry, loud, stiff politician. This is interesting because in most sessions where I show this picture, the reactions were words like funny, hilarious. And the reason why people said that is because they actually saw this footage on TV. For people who actually saw this footage on TV that went viral, this guy is an expert in North Korean politics, okay? So he was giving an interview with the BBC about North Korea, North Korean politics and the nuclear kind of arms in North Korea. But while he was doing the live interview, his children appeared in the room. First, it was a little girl, then it was a baby on a little walker, and then the wife, and he was trying to keep the straight face. And then the wife stormed in to try to get the kids out of the room. And that went absolutely viral because they were talking about a very serious topic, and it was a very, very funny situation. So it's interesting that most people here didn't say funny, which makes me think that perhaps most people didn't see this media shot. And this is where the biases come from. If you've never seen this interview, your reaction is very likely to be your kind of reaction: boring, interview, TV, politician. If you actually saw the footage, you're quite likely that your reaction will be very, very different. So again, you could have very opposite reactions with the same kind of image. based on your knowledge of the situation, your own experience, your exposure to the media, and so on. Let's quickly go, let's look at the time. Let's quickly go. Yeah, this one, of course, you know, in this group, most people said flag or national or glory, something related to a flag. When you have a session like this, let's say in a European context or in Britain, the reaction is very, very emotional, because of course the flag is the EU flag. And as you know, with Brexit, which has been going on now for over 3 years, people feel very, very emotional about the whole Brexit thing. So when they see this flag, rather than saying flag, people come up with very emotional reactions. So, you know, Brexit, angry, division, or people who are in favor of Brexit, they might say, great, goodbye Europe, or something like that. So again, it depends very much on the context. Let's look quickly at this one. Anyone wants to make any comments on this image? This one had a combination of positive reactions as well as negative reactions. So some people said something like sore loser or loser. Some people said kind of like more positive reactions. Anyone wants to comment on this photo? She looks angry. This photo is, again, if people who watched this match normally will have some emotional reaction to this image. This is a match where Serena Williams got annoyed because of a decision by the referee, and because she got very emotionally annoyed about it, she got a further punishment from the referee, but the punishment was really, really strong. And did a lot of debate and race. Referee tougher on Serena because she was a woman. Was he tougher on her because she was a Black woman? And there was a lot of discussion and controversy around this image, and whether the fact that what happened was related to gender. And again, you know, for people who know about that match, when they see this image, it's quite likely that the reaction will have some judgment around that situation. So we had a session last week and someone said she's a bad loser. By knowing the image, you wouldn't know he was losing. But that reaction was related to that knowledge of that context. Any other reactions? Of course, this one, let's do this one as, this one and one more, and then we'll move on. Of course, this one, I think 99% of you said COVID, of course, you know. Now you see a person with a mask. Of course, in this case, it's an Asian person with a mask, and your immediate reaction because of the experience we're going through now is COVID. Interestingly enough, this image I've had in my presentation for a long time, even before COVID. And when I had this presentation in Asia, and of course it was before coronavirus, the reaction was very much about the looks of this guy, you know. So if I had female colleagues in the session and looked at this guy, they said, oh, good looking, handsome, K-pop star, you know. So it was very much more focused on the looks of the guy rather than the fact that he's wearing a mask. In our context today, if you see a person with a mask, you're much more likely that you're going to focus on the mask and talk about COVID. So your brain is sending you very, very different signals. Right. And this is consistently, we took more, it's very difficult to get neutral words about these images. I mean, some people just said red carpet event, which are more neutral, but a lot of the words that you came up with had either a kind of a negative value or a positive value. some people did say kind of bored or not loving each other or something like that. And then when we move to the next picture, most of the words tended to be a little bit more positive, like happy, in love. Someone said, anyone wants to comment on these pictures in particular?
It's Carol speaking. I
Hi,
reacted
Carol.
to the one on screen rather negatively, saying that they disengaged because
Okay.
they were facing almost opposite directions and responding to external factors and not to each other, was my perception of this particular image.
Of that image. Yeah. Anybody wants to say anything else on these images? In the second image, smiles are genuine. Body language speaks louder than words. And again, you know, we are reading into the body language of these people, you know, so we might have a prejudgment about this particular image. It could be many, many things, but they're very, very unlikely that they're going to trigger a neutral word. So as individuals, based on our own knowledge, our own experience, or simply how we read other people, we can react in very, very different ways to exactly the same situation. So some people might feel they look really genuine and in love, and some people might think they look a bit fake because they're looking in different ways. So same situation, different reactions. And of course, the multiplication, except for some super brains out there, most people needed to really think about it. You couldn't kind of come up with a solution straight away. Everybody had to stop and think, and we will talk about that in a minute. Okay, maybe just the last one, this one. I think someone said wannabe or drama. Who had to say wannabe or drama?
Hi, it's Kathy here. Hi, I said wannabe, really because I don't think she knows what she wants to be. She wanted to be an actress, and then she wanted to be a princess, and now she wants to be a nobody. So she just needs to decide if she wants to be a celebrity or not.
Okay, no, that's great. And again, you know, your word is very emotionally charged. There's a lot of thinking behind that word. So you look at her, you know who she is, obviously, you know it's Meghan Markle, and you know quite a lot about the background of Meghan Markle, you know, ex-actress who married a prince, was in the limelight, and now they don't want to be in the royal family anymore. So obviously your word, wannabe, has a lot of baggage in your own mind based on your understanding of her situation, the knowledge, what you've read on the media, whatever, your own judgment, but it's an emotionally charged word. Someone might look at this, I mean, it's very unlikely that nobody will know who she is, but if anybody doesn't know, maybe we'll say beautiful or we'll say woman. For people who think differently from you, they'll probably come up with other words, positive words, brave, you know, whatever. Actually, this photo is from the time she was in Johannesburg, at the University of Johannesburg, on a panel discussion that we organized for her at the British Council. So that kind of emotional connotation, it's a quick reaction that your brain is triggering to an image of an individual that you know something of. And that in itself is a sort of bias. And we will talk about that. It doesn't mean it's wrong or right. It just means that it's not neutral. You're not having a neutral reaction to this image. So let's move on in the interest of time, okay? Are you happy so far? And can we move on?